I'm gonna keep it brief. I'm gonna say this in a way that's easy to understand. They are known for good welfare, but terrible maintenance. When Jurong West bus package was handed over to SMRT, they found out that some of the KUBs have gone as much as 2 years without maintenance. Which is quite serious. The reason why SMRT wants to send back the KUBs to SBS Transit is because when you're retiring a bus, you need to do paperwork for one motoring, that website, in order for the deregistration process to be completed. And because SMRT inherited these assets from SBS Transit, they are just not willing to do it. Because the KUBs, they are not the government's assets, but SBS Transit's own leased assets. So I'm going to repeat again. At the time during the handover, SMRT found out that SBS Transit, they have a lot of buses that are long overdue for maintenance. And they also found out that some of them haven't been maintained for more than 2 years, not just 2 years. So as you all know, you know all those stunts, be it split shift or full day of like Mercedes-Benz OC 500 LE, the Citaros, as well as the no, not the Citaros, OC 500 LE, the MAN A22 Euro 5, as well as in some cases the 2014 Enviro 500s, as in year 2014. These buses are basically used as KUB replacements when they are like down for maintenance or they broke down or something along those lines. And to make matters worse, there are a few like Euro 4 KUBs like this one. The reason why some of them are still in SBS Transit's format is because it's not because it's intentional or they forgot to change it. The truth is that I think in the previous check, LTA was like kind of angry with SMRT for not like doing due diligence and like checking or something, but at a subsequent round when SMRT actually did the checks themselves, they found out that I think 3 KUBs, they were unable to convert it to the SMRT EDS format because of an uploading error. But then because LTA forced them to use these assets, SMRT has to live with it. Because when you have to remember that like when SMRT took over the Jurong West bus package, they wanted to use their own assets, as in the operator-owned buses and not government-owned buses. They didn't want to use SBS Transit's assets as well because there's like a leasing fee or something along those lines. So yeah, SMRT, they wanted to reject it, but LTA's bus assets, the deputy director, they just forced SMRT to use KUBs as part of that like Jurong West bus package contract. It's not even government assets, it's SBS Transit's own assets. And because SMRT was forced to intake a bus model that they weren't familiar with and they didn't really want to intake them, they were forced to, like as I've said. What happens is that right now they are demanding compensation from both SBS Transit and like LTA, easily 6 to 7 figures. just count the number of zeros, and yeah, you get my point. And the reason why they're asking for compensation is because, how do I put this? It's like LTA forced SMRT to use buses that weren't even the government's assets, not even their own. And they refused to let SMRT use their own assets as well. And because the KUBs, they are not the government's assets, they were SBS Transit's assets. So because of bad maintenance from SLBP during the SBS Transit era, technically SBS Transit is responsible for like so-called supplying the buses to SMRT, and when these buses are faulty, yeah, it really gave SMRT a really hard time. And also, like I've said before, when it comes to like the deregistration of buses, that's why SMRT wants to get rid of the KUBs. They don't want to keep them anymore, ideally, and they want to use their own assets, which is MAN 822 Euro 5. Basically, the SMB plated buses like 1XX, 2XX, 3XX, as well as like, you know, the 13 somethings, the 14 somethings, and even 15 and 16 somethings. Their own assets. I mean, not the BSEP MAN 822 Euro 5s, but SMRT's own assets per se. They want to use it. So again, SMRT wants to use their own assets. LTA doesn't allow, they force SMRT to intake a model that they're not familiar with, and SBS Transit didn't do a good job at, as in Sun Li didn't do a good job at maintaining said model that SMRT was going to use as part of the handover. That's the reason why SMRT is demanding either compensation in the form of like money, or uh, either that or SMRT being able to use their own assets, meaning this one, and LTA bus assets that stupid department has to close one eye when it comes to like bus deployments. So maybe it's time to actually rig some Vedi buses on the feeders, right? The Boonlay feeders. Like 240, 243. Nah, just kidding, but like, you get what I mean. SMRT is either demanding compensation, like in the midst of it, or asking LTA, hey, stop dictating our deployments, just let us uh, live our lives properly, that kind of thing, you know. I don't really blame any of the PTOs by this because they are just subject to the horrible demands of LTA and KUBs. The reason why SBS Transit mass bought KUBs 230 and not even 250 or 270 UBs is because, and then it's like Gemilang, is because when you buy from Gemilang, it's not that expensive and it's easier to ship it over to Singapore from Malaysia. Because if I'm not mistaken, they are actually assembled in Malaysia and then shipped over to Singapore. I don't know if it's the chassis or like the whole bus. I completely forgot. Someone please tell me in the comment section. So yeah, that was the reason why SBS Transit like mass bought a so-called inexpensive cheap bus model, and then it ended up giving problems, be it in the short run or like the long run. And this kind of caused SMRT to demand compensation because of like poor maintenance. The fault of this really lies in LT being really stingy with bus deployments. What else can I say? I mean, expected. This is not the first time you've heard LTA doing stupid stuff. Because as much as I now like KUBs and OC 500 LEs, you really cannot deny that these buses, they were just not built to last. but they're still better than like whatever electric bus that idiot is trying to procure. It's not just me, but this is why me and a few others, my friends, not really a few others, but legit many people, be it bus enthusiasts or non-bus enthusiasts, we are all worried for like the future of Singapore buses in general, because it's just all these things making public transport operators' lives really difficult. Just give SMRT their bendy buses already since they actually want them, please.